Welcome to the Nebraska Prep Zone podcast. I'm Stu Pospisil, and Mike Patterson is alongside as always. And we're getting into the nitty-gritty time, aren't we, with postseason and all our winter sports.
Right. Sub-districts already starting in classes C and D, Stu, and A and B will be there next week, and state tournament will be upon us before we know it.
March 1, hard to believe.
4 days.
4 days each week. I think it's good for the kids. I'm not sure our wives appreciate it, but we'll see them sometime.
We'll have to go through a number of Red Bulls to make it through those 4 days.
I don't do Red Bulls.
I don't usually, but at times like that, I think I might start.
Yeah, I'm not even a Mountain Dew person, so I might have to break my no cola regime.
That's probably wise.
So anyway, besides all this, we have state wrestling this week that you probably won't sniff your nose around, but we got boys and girls. We've got tourney start on Thursday. The semis are Friday night at 6:30, a little later than normal to accommodate the girls, Mike. And then if you're so interested, either on TV or in person, and it's a sellout, the finals start Saturday at 3 o'clock. So this girls wrestling, probably a little long overdue, and they've got 1,100 girls wrestling.
You know, this isn't a varsity sport, Stu, at least during this time. Club volleyball, that CHI Center is going to be a busy place because the first of the 3 days of the President's Day tournament will be going on. Volleyball will also be going on over there. I spoke with the organizer the other day. There's more than 500 teams.
Well, I was going to say it was like 365 the last I knew. 500. And how many college coaches are going to be swarming like bees?
Probably about that many college coaches. So that'll be the place to be if you love volleyball, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, not just at CHI, but at a couple other sites around town. So,
oh, really? I didn't. Again, that the explosion is just remarkable. And just think, it must be like College World Series time when all the Legion teams or the youth teams come in. This has to be an extra couple-day boon for the hotel, motel, hospitality industry in town.
Oh, for sure. Tournament organizer told me more than 2,000 matches, 11,000 hotel room nights, an estimated $8 million impact here in the metro area. So it's amazing how big that tournament has gotten. And like I said, on Saturday, that'll be the overlap between the state wrestling tournament and volleyball, and then volleyball will be going on Sunday and Monday after that. Yeah,
you see as you come in on Saturday, it's a mix of wrestlers and volleyball, you know, with their paraphernalia, and it's again, great day for youth sports in Omaha, Nebraska.
Now, where the heck you park on Saturday, I'm not exactly sure.
I have a parking pass.
Okay,
so does our photographer. So that I'm assured I think of a spot. So
lucky you, especially if the weather is nasty. So
it's supposed to warm up after this.
Wow.
It's supposed to be like 50 on the weekend. So it's going to be maybe a quick thaw.
Okay, I can handle that.
But, hopefully it doesn't disrupt, especially Thursday night's sub-district finals in the girls, C1 to D2, right?
Right. All the finals will be Thursday, and I plan to be somewhere that night. Again, weather permitting, so we'll see if that happens.
So, well, on the basketball scene, big weekend for Bellevue West. Once again, we keep talking about them, but again, between their talent and their schedule, last week they beat Bishop Walsh to, along with Omaha Westside, uphold state pride at the Heartland Hoops Classic. This week they've got number 3 Miller North at home Friday night, and then go to Westside, which Westside's gym always can be kind of a snake pit. Now Saturday night maybe it won't be quite as intense. I mean, if it was Friday night, they'd certainly have a full house, and we know Saturday games aren't drawing the way they should, but this one very well may, and Westside's number 6. Bellevue West gets through that. In all likelihood, they should get to state undefeated.
You mentioned Westside's gym. I think the Westside girls pulled an upset over Millard West, one of our ranked teams. So hasn't been a great season for the Westside girls, but like you said, that gym, some magic things happen there sometime, and Jim Simons does a great job with the West Side team. But again, Bellevue West, they just keep bringing on all these takers, and they keep answering every challenge.
Yeah, they've certainly earned what will be their number one seed in the districts, and in all likelihood the state tourney, because when they're sitting like that and they come into district time at number one, they're the first ones. They're the only team that knows that they're going to be in the state tourney. Everybody else has to play their way in.
Right. And last time I checked Max Preps, I think Bellevue West was in the top 25 nationally.
21 as of, I haven't checked this week yet, but they were 21.
I think for some reason they dropped a notch to 22. So, but still, top 25, unbeaten. Awesome season for Doug Woodard and his squad.
So far, they've been in the state final 3 straight years. They need to get, for Josiah Dotzler and the seniors, freshman year, state championship, 2 runner-ups. They'd like to bookend it, I would believe.
I would believe so too, and I wouldn't bet against that.
I wouldn't either. I mean, I think, as we've said many times, I said many times, you want to be in the 2, 3, 6, and 7 hole at state
to avoid that
as long as you can, to get to the final and then take your shot at knocking off Goliath.
Right. Yep.
But you better bring more than a slingshot and a handful of pebbles.
Amen.
So, we'll run through the top 10. Bellevue West 1, Omaha Creighton returns to number 2. Miller North 3 and Gretna 4. Miller North needed a buzzer beater by Elijah Gaith to beat Gretna when Gretna was number 2. Then needed a tip in the next night to win at Papio South. And Lincoln East is saying they're at number 5. They're a team that very well could, move up. You've got so many teams in contention for those last 2, 3 home seed spots, Mike, in the districts where you're guaranteed win and stay home for your next game. There's about 11 teams, I think, that mathematically can claim one of those 7 spots. The remainder of the 7 spots.
Mm-hmm. I'm cheating and looking at your sheet, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves. But I'm seeing a lot of Lincoln teams in that top 10. But go ahead, pick it up again.
Well, Lincoln's had, quite the season. And I can't remember. It hasn't happened with me, and we haven't had 7 or 8 Lincoln schools either. But first time, all 7 Lincoln Class A schools have been ranked at some point during the season. So the internal battles in the capital city have been very popular. They're getting good crowds, good enthusiasm that can only translate for the future. And it's been a long time since Lincoln, in fact, 2003, 20 years ago, has had a state champion. And that after what had happened the previous 10 years where they were dominant, of course, they opened up new schools, and so your talent got diluted a little bit. But on the girls' side, they've had state titles since then. So.
True. Another thing about all those Lincoln schools, depending on how many make the state tournament, I'm sure that the NSAA doesn't mind having those fans coming in droves for those Lincoln teams. So we'll see what happens.
Again, the hospitality industry, maybe they'd like, but again, Lincoln's still going to have great fan bases, and especially for you, great bands.
True. Even though I don't see a certain Lincoln school in that top 10, whose band I like. So. Well,
Southeast is still in the mix. I mean, you can't rule out hardly anybody this year in the top 15, 16, 17 schools to pull off an upset or 2 and get to the state tourney.
I can't just say it's all about Southeast band too, because everywhere, and I know you're like this too, and I have a new appreciation for bands because our son Sean was the
little drummer boy
at when he was at Omaha Creighton Prep. But there's so many great bands around this state. I'm not going to say just Omaha, but just all over the state. So shout out to all them for showing up at games, and those bands bring a lot of another level of fun and intensity, and whatever you want to say about it, just really adds a lot to the atmosphere.
Well, I did that little salute to bands a couple weeks ago when I was on a local radio station for an hour, and they ask you to kind of pick music of your youth and that, and I went with pep band music that I always enjoyed, and like Wipeout and King Tut. the radio station, and that feature never had anybody ask for King Tut by Steve Martin before. But
you mentioned Wipeout. I can't remember if it was Lincoln Christian. It was one of the Lincoln schools. But man, their drummer did a great job on that, and that's the ultimate challenge for a drummer, keeping up with Wipeout.
Well, let's hope that none of these teams gets wiped out on any level coming up, that we have some great matchups. But in Class B, Omaha Skutt still sitting there number one. Class C1, I took Wahoo up to number one because they're just wiping up Class B right now, and Ogallala's undefeated, but just hasn't seen the same type of competition night in and night out. But again, this would be 31 years since Ogallala knocked off Wahoo to end a 114-game winning streak for the Warriors. So I always love Wahoo-Ogallala matchups because they are very intense.
Remember, Ogallala was the team that defeated the South Sioux City girls that one year.
Yes. Well, two undefeated teams.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a little bit before you were on the prep run, but yeah, that Ogallala's had some great basketball moments. C2, Donovan Trumbull lost for the first time, but I still kept him number one. North Platte St. Patrick's defending champion, and Lincoln Parkview, the defending champion, both had the D1 and D2 ratings respectively. Mm-hmm. What's new on your side?
Well, the big game last week, Stu, was the rivalry game, Bellevue West at Bellevue East. Two ranked teams, great crowd. Maya Scoff for Bellevue East really lifted the Chieftains up. She had 23 in the first half, ended up with a game-high 30. Chieftains prevailed over Bellevue West, so that impacted our ratings this week.
How did she do that? Was it slashing, or was she shooting well from the perimeter?
Kind of a combination.
Okay.
She had, I think she had maybe 3 3-pointers, but she, kind of like Cora Olson of Millard South, likes to drive that lane, and if she doesn't make the shot, she's going to get fouled and create things that way. So,
I've not seen her this year, so I hope to.
Yeah. Trying to think, I think it was Kenzie Melcher for Bellevue West had 28.
Okay.
I'm guessing that might be a career high or season
it must
high
be,
for her. Bellevue East did a really nice job on the 2 big scores for Bellevue West, and that was a big impact.
Yeah, that had to be a fun night. So.
But mentioning Bellevue West, and you did playing Millard North, that'll be the big game this week. Millard North girls at Bellevue West and Millard North boys at Bellevue West.
Right.
I'll be there for both of them while you're covering wrestling.
I offered to trade.
So the Thunderdome will be the place to be Friday night. So let's take a quick look at our overall top 10. Number 1, Millard South remains on top. Number 2, Omaha Skutt. Number 3, Elkhorn North. I moved both those Class B teams up a notch, penalized Bellevue West a little bit for losing at Bellevue East. Number 4 is Millard North. Number 5 is Lincoln High. Number 6 is Bellevue East. Number 7 is Bellevue West. Number 8 is Millard West. Number 9 is Bridgeport, Class C1 number 1, and still the only undefeated team in the state. And number 10, another C1 team gets in there this week, Stu. North Bend, the 3-time defending Class C1 champions. The Tigers lost their opening game at, I think it was Wahoo Newman.
Yes.
And they haven't lost since. So, yeah, they've had a great season. Aaron Sterup obviously got them on the right track again. They're going for the 4-bagger this year. So that's why North Bend has moved into that top 10 this week.
Who else do you have at number 1s in C2 and below?
Well, let's see. We got, as I mentioned, Millard South in A and Skutt in B, Bridgeport in C1, Crofton, the Warriors in C2, Ravenna remains number 1 in D1, and Fall City Sacred Heart, the Irish, remain number 1 in D2. So those are our number 1s throughout the classes.
So, well, it sounds like we've got a busy week ahead. We'll be back next week with a district update on boys and girls basketball and maybe how wrestling went. So for Mike Patterson, I'm Stu Pospisil. We'll see you the next time on the Nebraska Prep Zone podcast.